Welcome to Not This, Not That, where we push our boundaries of understanding and perception. I am your host, Reverend Patricia Caginello, and I invite you to join me as we open to the possibility that things may not be exactly as you believe, as you've been told, that there could be more, that in our collective consciousness is the potential for the all. You can find Not This, Not That on the Sacred Stories podcast on sacredstoriesmedia.com and on iTunes and all streaming services. Click to subscribe and join us each show. Today, we are expanding our boundaries of understanding on the topic of the sacred masculine. We have the pleasure of speaking with Miguel Dean, who for the last 22 years has been immersed in the twin paths of healing and transformation, which can be summarized as an inner journey to heal his own wounds, facilitated and complemented by his service to others and passion for spiritually rooted social change. Miguel is the author of Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story, which is a captivating autobiographical novel that boasts a uniquely vulnerable voice in its depiction of the realities of the twin flame romantic connection in an intensely relatable way. It is a truly resonant and therapeutic contribution to a market and genre that often lacks the visceral honesty and healing so profoundly present in this beautiful story. It is a love story told from the voice of the sacred masculine. So I'd like to say welcome, Miguel Dean, to Not This, Not That.
Hello, Patricia. Thank you very much for the invitation to be with you today. Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm really excited about your book, Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story, and it is published by Sacred Stories Publishing. And I'm excited to have the conversation around the sacred masculine because for me, you know, the rise of the divine feminine is powerful and wonderful, and it's kind of gotten a lot of attention, but it never really seemed to make a lot of sense to take this beautiful, powerful, balanced divine feminine and pair her back with kind of the patriarchal, dominant or domineering, competitive male. It just didn't seem to ever match for me. So it's with great relief, to be quite honest, that there's another masculine that we can talk about, and you refer to it as the sacred masculine. And so share a little bit more what that actually means.
So the sacred masculine, I think, in essence for me, is a man that has attained a significant degree of balance and union of the twin flame energies of the divine feminine and masculine within himself. So I think, that perhaps a nice visual image of that really is the yin-yang symbol. So, we have the black and the white and the merging together, and that both are actually contained within each other as well. So, essentially that seems to be what it is. I've kind of stumbled across being the sacred masculine, as it were, by accident, just as you mentioned in the introduction, just through my own journey, really, of, my inner journey to heal myself and to be the best version of myself, and realizing that I can't do that in isolation, but that has to be done through how I show up in the world, in my service, in my deepening realization that everything is interconnected, and that that we're not separate, and that nothing happens in isolation.
So let's break that down just a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. So if we just talk about the key attributes of sacred masculinity, I kind of put my, opinion over it, or my view over it, of what maybe a traditional male looks like in today's society, or has looked like for a period of time. And I, kind of envision, and I believe you speak about a different kind of a male, so a little bit more on what does that really mean? What are some of the attributes of someone who is embodying the sacred masculine?
Yes. So probably the most significant attribute, I would say, is a return to the heart. I think many many of the messages that boys receive as they're growing up, things like big boys don't cry and that you don't show your feelings. And so we have a lot of men that have kind of retreated into their heads, and women as well. I think this isn't gender specific, but that we spend too much time in our heads and we've lost touch with our feelings. We've lost touch with our heart center. So the sacred masculine is somebody who's had the courage to make that journey back to the heart and back to feeling more and back to living, from the body and from the senses. And of course, this is a difficult journey to make, because when we first make that journey back into our hearts, the first thing that we encounter is all the unexpressed pain and emotions that we weren't able, or that we didn't know how to express, at the time, of the incident actually happening that caused those emotions to arise. So it's very much about this journey back into the heart. And if you like that, another sort of metaphor for that is also the masculine and feminine energy, that as a generalization, the masculine energy is more of the mind and the feminine energy more of the heart and more of the feelings. So, it's very much back to this finding balance within oneself, where the emotions and the feelings operate as an internal compass of how we navigate our way through life, in conjunction, with a clear mind.
Okay, so I have a few questions for you, but the first one, I love that you said "Big Boys Don't Cry," right? I mean, I think there's a very popular song that, paraphrases that as well. And so if a male is crying, or a male isn't so in touch with their feelings and so forth, are they lacking strength? Are they so vulnerable now? I mean, we think of the masculine as the protector, right? The strong part of the union of the masculine and the feminine. So if the masculine is also in his heart and is vulnerable and is expressing his feelings, can he still be strong?
Yes. I think that's definitely a clear yes for me, that actually, there is great strength in softness. And particularly in this day and age where, perhaps it's not seen as the manly thing to do, although I think that's becoming less. It takes courage to actually, to show one's emotions. Because I guess what often happens is that, if we're feeling a sadness and perhaps tears happen, then often this sort of programmed voice kicks in our minds, this inner critic that begins to shame us and put us down for the fact that we're, that we are being weak. It's a common misperception. I think it's a common misperception that it is weak, but actually, it's a totally natural process. If a baby is upset, it cries, doesn't it? And whether it's male or female, I don't think we see that, just female babies cry and male babies don't. So they haven't learned yet, to suppress those emotions. They haven't had the shaming. And there's a reason for that, isn't it? It's the body is perfectly tuned, and everything that happens in our bodies happens for a reason, and it's to release that emotion. Otherwise, we end up with loads of toxic emotions stored up, the energy trapped in different parts of our body, and that invariably ends up in physical diseases or illnesses and so on, and people and this kind of epidemic of perhaps men getting drunk and the stopper coming off the emotional bottle, and it all coming out in anger and in a very projected and toxic way. I would say it takes great strength to visit this realm of really feeling, because we're not used to, we label so many emotions as bad emotions, and so we shame ourselves when we feel those emotions, but those emotions are actually signposts. They're clues to bring us on track and show us, when we're in alignment with the truth of who we really are, or when we're getting lost.
I think that's a really great point, that both male and female babies cry. and somehow that's accepted. And then there becomes a point in time, probably in the toddler years, when we tell the boys, literally are telling boys, be a big boy, right? Don't cry. Right. So you're right. It absolutely. I mean, I think that's a phenomenal point. The other question I have with the sacred masculine, though, because I think another societal perception is that if a man is in touch with his feelings, that it has to do with his sexuality, more than that there's a question about his sexuality, and the sexuality of a male or female is irrelevant and not a point. I bring it up more from the perspective of people considering if a male is in touch with his feelings, then he must be not, heterosexual. And so he's not a real, has the strength of a heterosexual male. And there's a societal bias to that. It's not necessarily good. And I'm hoping part of this conversation will remove that. But speak to the question of, can a man be embodying the sacred masculine and be of any sexual preference?
Yes. Yeah, I don't see any reason why not at all. I mean, when we come back to the truth that we all have masculine and feminine within ourselves, and that's regardless of gender or, our sexuality or, anything at all. So it may be that, that it's just about balancing the masculine and feminine within. And so if we're not feeling, then something is out of balance within ourselves. And I think this sometimes shows up in society, in women being perhaps over emotional, because they're almost like overcompensating for the lack of emotion that's present within their men. Now, you can be too. You can be over emotional, and you can become a sort of like a soft man, but that's often connected with inner child wounds. It's the boy, the boy that's still upset or still scared or still doesn't feel valued. That's manifesting when a man can become too soft and too much immersed in the emotional arena. It's so much about balance, and a lot of it is about healing the boy, so that we can show up as healed, whole men, as it were.
So we're really talking, and this is just brilliant and beautiful, because we're really talking about many layers and levels of this. And so on the outermost level, we're talking about a male embodying the qualities of the sacred masculine, and the union with a female embodying the qualities of the divine feminine or sacred feminine. But what you're really saying, and I think what the real point is that within each person, male and female, there is the sacred masculine and the divine feminine. Is the balance within the individuals is really where the heart of it, regardless of who they join with, within relationships.
Yes. It seems to me increasingly that the external world, to a large extent, is a mirror, a reflection of what's going on within ourselves. So when I'm working with people on a one-to-one basis, it may often be that a woman is talking about the issues that she has with men. But usually what I encourage that person to do is just to look inside and see that that's a reflection of the wounded masculine within her. And so if we look and see where that comes from, often from, issues that she may have had with her father or past relationships, then what she will find in her life is that the men that show up in her life, as she heals her inner masculine, she will just attract men that are more... that their masculine is more healed and more healthy and more whole, and the same the other way around. There are men that I work with that have to do a lot of work with their inner feminine, and they're blaming stuff on their female counterpart. But it's like, you can't change somebody else. It's look within, and when you resolve and heal your own inner feminine, then the dynamic shifts and it's kind of a bit miraculous, really, but the whole relationship changes and the woman will start behaving in a different way as well, because we're connected. There's an energy field that connects us all. We're not, it's only the mind that makes us believe that, that we're separate and that we're these separate individuals with this space between us. There isn't really the space where we are all connected, and so our own energy impacts on the energy of the others that we're that are in our lives.
Well, I've definitely been told on more than one occasion that my masculine is overdeveloped, and I could do to develop my feminine a little bit more, feel into my feminine. So, and that has to do with I think, my organizational qualities or my assertiveness or my, being in business and so forth. And people view that as, not necessarily maybe positive qualities. They see it as an overdeveloping. And so I think what you're speaking to, I think the beauty of it is absolutely important for the men in our society to feel comfortable connecting with their heart. But I believe there's a lot of females out there that are looking for the balance. I think we're all looking for the balance we're speaking about.
Yeah. There's been a lot of overcompensation because the men haven't been showing up, as it were. Then women, this is a generalization, but women generally have had to kind of inhabit that masculine space, and so we end up with a world where the masculine is almost like put on a pedestal, and the masculine attributes of action and pushing forwards and assertiveness are focused on, and the more feminine perhaps qualities, energies of receptivity and receiving and stillness, and take very much a back seat. So the woman is more masculine, and man is kind of like got this underdeveloped masculine and feminine, and then of course there are different degrees of sort of toxic masculine and feminine when things get distorted and so on as well. It's quite complex, really.
Well, it's complex, and then it's just so beautifully simple, because it really kind of goes back to the journey is within, right? And so, and that's where we start, and then how we manifest in the world and in relationships with others once we have kind of taken the hardest journey, which is to go within. And so the idea, or the idea, what we're really speaking about is the both aspects of the masculine and the feminine within each of us really being in balance and being connected. And there's not, the head is in union with the heart, or in connection, right? I don't want to say it for you, but just kind of fine tune it, wrap it up, put a bow on it for us a little bit. And then I want to ask about your journey, your personal journey through your love story, and how that helped you.
Okay, Patricia, yes. I think to wrap it up, really, balance is the key word. This, the symbol of the yin yang just is a beautiful visual image of it, and this really is a path. It's a path to awakening, to ascension, to oneness, whatever you want to call it, because what we come from this place of oneness, is my belief. We incarnate into these human forms to experience duality so that we know oneness. And our journey from duality, through this lifetime back towards oneness. And the sacred masculine and sacred feminine is just a beautiful sort of roadmap, of how that can happen. Because when the balance is really fine-tuned, and there is a marriage and a union, then there is a return to oneness. That is, then there is sort of self-realization and so on, and we really begin to awaken to the truth, the truth of life beyond what we can perceive with our senses, and beyond the conditioning and programming that we've all received, from generations and generations.
Well, I think it's incredibly important because, as we know, there's been many studies of, mental issues within all of us, and a lot within the male. A lot within the male as far as their inability to really be in touch with their feelings. So I think it's critical that everyone, regardless of their gender, right, can be connected to their heart and can be in balance. So I think the work is incredibly important that you're doing, Miguel, and you're bringing attention to, and just to reiterate that connecting with our heart, or feeling vulnerable, or feeling in touch with our feelings, whether we're a male or a female, is actually a quality of strength. It is not weakness, what we're speaking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the key that unlocks the door for many people because of the big boys don't cry societal perceptions we have put on the men for literally eons at this point. So you have taken this road, right? The road less traveled, let's say, to your heart, and more fully embodying the qualities of the sacred masculine in your life. And a lot of this has played out in your relationship that you write about in your new book, Bring Him Home, A Twin Flame Love Story. Share a little bit about what the book is and what was your road, to more fully embody the sacred masculine throughout this relationship.
Yeah, so the book really, I mean, what happened for me was I traveled so far along this road to sacred masculinity, but it was like I'd hit a wall, and I guess really that wall was that there was a part of me that was still looking for a woman to complete me. On some level, I knew that I needed to access the divine feminine and completely heal the mother wound that I'd been carrying and that had been sabotaging my relationships. But I just arrived at this point where I just said to myself, no more, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not looking outside. I need to look within. And there was a deep commitment to this path and this journey. And so I thought I was going to be, on my own, and that I needed to do this work by myself. But some beautiful sort of synchronicity happened, and I found myself in a relationship with an amazing woman who really just took me on this journey. Well, we took each other on an incredible sort of catalytic journey for her to heal a lot of her masculine, and for me to finally put to bed, and to heal this wound of the feminine that was in me. So, we met, and we very quickly fell in love, and very deep connection, so much passion and attraction. But, the honeymoon period sort of passed very quickly, because the true nature of conscious relationship is to heal and transform and to mirror and reflect, and to enable us to become the best versions of ourselves. And this happened with this woman, just a kind of level and intensity that I'd never experienced before. So it was a real roller coaster of fear, of facing myself, facing, my demons. But because there was this deep commitment to be with this woman and to put this, to rest once and for all, that I just made a really strong decision. My sword goes in the ground. I stand here, and this is what I will do this work. And we just had this amazing roller coaster journey where sometimes she would disappear and run away because of fear, and sometimes I would. But we just kept finding ourselves back together, even though the head was saying this doesn't make sense. There was just this really strong attraction that meant that we kept coming back together because of this love and this care and compassion for each other, which was woven with this deep purging and purification process that happened as well.
So we won't give away the ending, to bring him home a twin flame love story. We will say that it is tumultuous, it is passionate, it is raw, it is honest, and it really is a beautiful love story told from the voice of the masculine, which I appreciate, because most love stories are written by the female, right? They're the ones who are feeling. And if it's written by a male, it's a fiction. It's not a true story. And so it's one of the reasons that I was so interested in your book, in publishing your book, was because I believe it brings a new voice. It opens up, all of us to the possibilities of what this deep union can look like, and the honoring and the love and the reverence from a male for a female, I think, is another aspect of your story, and an aspect of embodying the sacred masculine that our world really so desperately needs, that we need to read and feel and see the honor and the reverence and the deep love in our society. And that is the story that Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story, tells, and it's a true story. So we know that it is really a potential or possibility for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. Thank you for that, Patricia. When the idea sort of found me to write this story, it was immediately a sense of, I can't not write this story. I need to do this, and it was quite challenging writing it and reliving it and so on. But yeah, as you say, I feel that it's part of what it is to be whole, to be embody the sacred masculine, is to be okay with vulnerability. And I think there are so many sort of love stories that are there's too much romance, and it's a bit Hollywoodized, and it's a bit on the surface. And it was important to me to show the kind of, it's like the workings out, the messy bits that often that we might feel shame, or we feel that that we are less than because of that. But my experience is that when we share our own challenges in the areas where we've struggled or fallen down and had to pick ourselves up, then it gives others permission to to be on that journey and to stop judging themselves so harshly. Because the truth is that we're all on this journey towards union. We all have this strong desire to connect and to be close and to be intimate. And yeah, for me, it just felt like, well, I'm not a great academic, but I can show others just by sharing my own story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a beautiful love story. It is an adult story. I would, if I would recommend people absolutely picking up Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story, and reading it and sharing it with others as well, because again, it's a not only a beautiful love story, it's a true story, and it is the story of the twin flame, as you say, right? The relationship that helps us, catalyzes us even to another level. But it is the journey of the balance. It is the journey of the sacred masculine. It is the journey of the male really getting in touch and feeling the feelings that don't feel so good. You know what I mean? Instead of stuffing them down, feeling them and living them and going through that pain. And so I love the story even more because we can talk about the sacred masculine, and we can say you embody the characteristics of the sacred masculine, or we could say what we believe the characteristics are, but through the telling of your personal love story, you've lived them and you share them with others. And Miguel, I think that takes great courage and great strength. And I just, I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, Patricia. Yeah, thank you. It feels very much like my whole life has been preparing me to do this work, really. As I say, it just feels like, I can't not do it. It brings me into alignment with the truth of who I am. And so it's a great honor and privilege to be able to be this voice and to share my stories. It heals me, it heals me as well as hopefully, touching hearts and sowing seeds of hope and for closer relationships, and kind of like the end of the war between the masculine and feminine, between men and women. Our history is, of patriarchy isn't always one that I feel terribly, positive about or proud of, but it's time to put the past behind us and just realize that, the strength and power and the beauty comes when we connect, when we come together, when we see the beauty in the differences within each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, society has, I believe, created, the media and society, or just the history has created these deep divisive lines between the male and the female. And even mainstream media and books and movies in recent culture have further divided and said shown all the differences. And so to have a conversation, to open to the possibility that within all of us is the sacred masculine and the divine feminine, and it's not only permissible, it's encouraged for all of us, to male and female, to take a deeper look, to connect more fully with all aspects of ourselves, and then bring that more balanced, whole, heart-centered person out to the world and in relationship with others if we choose. I think we're ready for it. I think today we are ready for it, and it's much needed.
Yes, yeah. It feels, it's a bit like, it's a key piece for me, in creating this, creating a more beautiful world. If when man and woman are living the truth of who they really are, the embodiment of love and truth, then think of the children that are born from that. How quickly we can turn everything round, and the generations where we've dysfunctionality and so on can be erased. Because it really is the foundation, isn't it, of who we are. This masculine, feminine, yin-yang dynamic is kind of the fabric of life itself, really.
And it's been in the ancient texts and been in the teachings for a very long time. I feel that we just haven't really fully maybe understood, the fullness of it. And the work of the sacred masculine today, I think, can help get us there. And I think it's so important. So Miguel Dean, author of his new book, Bring Him Home, A Twin Flame Love Story. Please tell our audience how they can get in touch with you, find out more about you and your book and your work.
Okay. The best place, a good starting place, is just to go to my website, which is just migueldean.net. You can find me on Facebook, Miguel Dean Sacred Masculine. And you'll also, find my book on Amazon, all the best retailers, and go to Sacred Stories as well, where you can read an excerpt and check it out. Excuse me.
Absolutely. No, Miguel Dean, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on this morning with us. I also want to thank our audience for listening and for joining us. I am your host, Reverend Patricia Caginello, and you have been listening to Not This, Not That, available on the Sacred Stories podcast.